That's a really hard game to win after being on the road for a long time. First game back's always tough, especially the 3 o'clock afternoon tip. Everybody's a little bit out of their rhythm, but there's a lot of ways to win a game, and I'm happy that our team, is finding ways to win even when we're not shooting the ball great. I mean, we shot the ball 27% from 3 for the game, and that was after basically getting hot in the fourth quarter. 7 guys in double figures, 29 assists. Like, the ball is continuing to move around. Playing a lot of different groups out there on the floor. Lowry obviously didn't have his best game tonight, but stuck with it and hit a big 3 late. I thought Keontae obviously was in funk is the wrong word, but he was in a little bit of a funk there early in the game. Couldn't quite find the rhythm. Had a couple uncharacteristic turnovers, and kept his head. Continued to play hard and made a bunch of big plays for us down the stretch. Kelly was fantastic tonight. We played through Kelly a lot, trying to play off the ball a little bit against Miami's physicality. That's a really good team we just beat, and really happy for our team. I thought, the one thing that I was not very happy with was obviously in the second half we just fouled too much. The third quarter in particular, to get into the bonus with like 8:45 or whatever it was left in the quarter, makes it hard to guard people, especially teams that play as physically as the Heat do. So, that's a really good team win. You guys need to get a little bit of rest tomorrow.
You mentioned that you guys weren't shooting well. It was 16% heading into the fourth. What was it that kept you in the game prior to kind of getting hot there in the fourth? Yeah,
I thought our defense overall had been very good. They made 9 free throws in the third quarter alone. So like their point total in that quarter looks high. But I thought that our half-court defense was pretty good tonight. I thought the lineups changing, makes the coverages change, and the guys did a pretty good job communicating. I thought for the most part we did a good job on guys like Duncan Robinson. He shook loose for a couple threes, but for him to only get 5 of them off, I think is a win for us. I thought that the guys' attention to detail was very good. Offensively, the 3-ball wasn't going well, but we ended with 60 points in the paint. So, continue to find ways to score. I thought we drove the ball well. I thought our spacing was relatively good throughout the game. That's a good defensive team that we played against. Not turning it over obviously helps. We ended up with a massive difference in field goal attempts. Obviously, they shot a few more free throws than we did, but I still think we won that battle by a significant margin tonight.
You referenced Keontae kind of having some early miscues, but then seeming to play with a lot more poise down the stretch of the game. What did you see from early on that was kind of causing the struggles, and then what did you like about the way he was playing late that prompted you to kind of keep him in down the stretch?
Yeah, I think early in the game, it wasn't anything that necessarily I saw. Miami does a good job of being aggressive defensively. They vary their coverages pretty well. I thought Keontae just kind of got caught by them a couple of times where, in particular, passing the ball, off the ball, to an off-ball action, they shot the gap a few times and got a few steals. I don't think it was necessarily anything that was wrong with Keontae. It was just a couple of bad reads. He got caught off guard by a very good aggressive defense. But then obviously he settled in. I thought he was communicating really well with his teammates. He was getting us organized. And then he, made a few threes off the dribble, which was starting to extend their defense a little bit. Your biggest fear in a game where you're not shooting the ball well from 3 is the other team's defense starts to inch back a little bit. And then it becomes harder and harder to score in the paint. It becomes harder and harder to create advantages because they're not respecting the 3-ball, especially at the point of attack. Keontae's development, shooting threes off the dribble, is going to be massive for our program. I think you see it when you look around the league. Top guards that can shoot threes off the dribble, it changes how the defense guards you on the first action. When teams don't respect that initial action, as a threat to shoot the ball from three. It's hard because you have to get to the second action to create an advantage, and now time's against you. So, Keontae works a lot on his off-the-dribble threes. We think it's a big part of his development, and we think that that's going to ultimately help our program as we move forward.
You talked about how the Heat are one of the tougher teams to play against offensively, and obviously we know that's a big part of their identity over the years under Spo. How much more impressive is it that a rookie like Keontae can, after struggling against that, can find his way and have the second half that he had?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have been impressive to me to have Keontae have that shift no matter who we were playing, but I think playing a team of that caliber, a program of that caliber, that team's been in a lot of big games together, and they're very connected. They communicate well. They play as hard as any team in the league night to night. I think I'm proud of Keontae with the way that he was able to just sort of shift his mindset during the game. It's hard to do. It's hard to just forget about what's already happened. Coaches are famous for saying next play, and that's easier said than done. But I thought he did a really good job of just staying in the moment. And he was massive for us, especially in the fourth quarter, helping us get the win.
The way that Kelly scores is
I can't wait for this word.
uncharacteristic
Correct. Well, not for Kelly.
for the NBA.
Correct. Yeah.
Sometimes when you're watching, are you like, I just want to know like what your feelings are in those moments. Are you like, no, wait, no, like 'cause that's kind of how I feel when I'm watching it.
Yeah. There's moments for sure. I'm a little bit more used to Kelly now than I was at the beginning of last year. So in some ways, nothing and everything surprises me. But he's got unbelievable footwork, and his ball handling, his size, the way he uses his body and his pivoting. I mean, he ends up making plays out of nothing a lot, which can happen to Kelly because we use him as a facilitator off the ball. And there are times where he gets it, we go to play an off-ball action, we don't have an advantage, and the whole world seems to be sort of hugged up on everybody else, and he ends up playing his unique game of one-on-one. I don't think that I would teach anyone to play like Kelly, and that's not because I don't like it, it's because I wouldn't know where to start. Kelly's an amazing player. Like I've said to you guys before, I don't really know what position Kelly is. It's easy to forget sometimes that he's 7 feet tall because of his skill set and his footwork. But he's a real luxury for us because it gives you another way that you can play. It doesn't just have to be pick and roll. He's a great facilitator for us when we play off the ball.
You mentioned the number of different lineups you've been playing, and recently too. Do you feel like that's been a big part of your team's success over the last couple of weeks, is that you can mix and match a little bit? And then how much does that make your job harder in kind of communicating to the guys on what to expect in terms of their roles?
I think it has something to do with our success. In no way do I think the varying lineups is why we're winning. I just think that it's good from the sense of our team has really become a team, and they understand that not every game's about you, and not every game is going to be set up for you, and as the game goes on, things can change. I've talked with you guys a lot over the last year and a half about closing lineups and how we'll try to do whatever we think makes sense in that game. And obviously the starting lineup has changed a bunch due to injuries and that sort of thing. From a communication standpoint, you never like telling somebody, hey, you're out of the starting lineup, or you're not going to play tonight, you're not in the rotation, the initial rotation. But I think, the second part of that conversation is always like, this is not permanent. And it doesn't mean that you're not a part of what we're doing. It's just for tonight. I've tried to have that mindset in terms of my communication with the team since I got the job, that things can change. It's 82 games, and everybody in that room has something to offer the team. So sometimes when you're fully healthy, even though things have been going well, now you have to make some hard decisions. It's like, well, how much do I just go back to what we were doing before all the injuries, or do we make some adjustments in terms of who's playing and who's playing with who and how many minutes they're playing? Which is not necessarily because those players that were out did anything wrong. It's just, hey, you've just come back and the team has a pretty good rhythm, and we don't want to disrupt ourselves as much as possible. You have to just try to be honest. I think NBA players, athletes in general, like, even if it's something they don't want to hear, they're always going to respect you just telling them the truth. And the guys that have been here with me over the last year and a half know that nothing's permanent. Guys have gone in and out of rotations and lineups over the last year and a half. So we really just try to make sure that everybody knows they are a part of the team, and this is a team sport.
Is there a point where you feel like you need to have consistency at your lineups? Maybe a point in the season. I know you're only year 2 on the job, so you're probably still figuring it out. But do you feel like there's a point where you want to have that consistency, or is it always all year you think you can vary it
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't really have a definite answer for you. I think based on the way that we're set up right now, I see a bunch of guys that you could make a case for that they should play. Some teams are set up in a way where hierarchy is much more clear. And I think it sometimes makes the decisions a little bit cleaner because they're almost assumed. Right now we have a lot of guys who can and have contributed to what we're doing. And so I think part of my job is recognizing that our locker room is an ecosystem. Like, it is a living, breathing thing, and you have to keep everybody engaged and involved because you never know who you're going to need and when you're going to need them. Injuries happen, things change all the time. And so just to kind of push people to the side doesn't make sense. So, right now we're just trying to do the best we can day to day to do what we think makes the most sense and try to keep this thing rolling.
Thank you.
Thank you.